We got enough people in chat. That'll be a little blip in the radar. Little blip in the schedule. Okay, so my hand's still covered in ink. It's great. Here is the 2-1-1 and how Zergs deal with the 2-1-1. A 2-1-1, for those of you who don't know, is a Terran build order, Terran being down here, that involves 2 barracks, 1 factory, and 1 starport. That's why it's called a 2-1-1. There are specifics to it that makes it the 2-1-1 that you would do versus a Zerg, but we can get into that a bit later. Generally, you're going to be going through your game like you usually would. Terran is maybe setting up for a 2-1-1. You don't know, because as a Zerg player, this is your vision currently. You have 1 overlord being sent out. Maybe you want to check for 2 racks. You know, they're proxying you and it's going to mess up your build. Or you just want to send it across the map. In this game, a pro Namshar did send an overlord on a very specific line to check if there's a 2 racks, because Kelazur can be a cheesy Terran. But otherwise, he goes for what is a standard Zerg opener with a hatch first on 17, then your gas on 18, and your pool on 17. That's really your bread and butter build. That's what you should be doing 9 out of 10 games, unless you're getting up to maybe like diamond and above, in which case you might want to mix in a pool first, or think about, you know, successful proxies, in which a pool first will also help you deal with. Anything below that, and, well, you should just be working on your micro and macro. But anyways, you're going to get, you know, make sure you don't get supply blocked, so you can kind of choose an overlord to buy now or not. You're going to be mining that gas. You're going to pull off around 100, so that you're going to have exactly 100 gas. You could go for the 3rd base at this time, or you could try and hold off on it. Go for speed first if you think it's like, if it's playing dangerously. But generally, you can get away with this, because Terrans really only be able to send out a Reaper at this time, as again, they didn't proxy you or anything like that. Now, Namshar still doesn't have any vision about what's going on in the Terran space. There's no real knowledge that there's a 2-1-1. But there are subtle hints coming up that can start to make you wonder, is this going to be a Hellion opener, which is a, like, 80% likelihood of a Terran doing, or is it going to be a 2-1-1, which is not as favorable nowadays, but is still done, and it's still a very good build order for Terrans to learn when they're still learning, basically. They're still learning on a macro and learning Terran in general. So that time is starting to come around, right? Like, we finally have speed started, regardless of when you put in 3rd base. 3rd base speed or speed 3rd base. This is kind of your general setup as a Zerg player. Your overlord has kind of made it across the map. Maybe you're on a map that can actually sustain an overlord on a podium. I can't think of any right now, but the Dreamcatcher is like one of the only ones that doesn't have a overlord hotspot, or whatever you want to call it. So at this point, you could potentially sacrifice your overlord. So let's take a look at everyone's vision. You know, let's go. Namshar's vision, it's nothing right now. He sees a Reaper, and he's starting to think, where are the Hellions, if it's a normal Hellion opener. If we go to everyone's vision, we can see that Kelazur does already have in the makings all the things you would scout to go, oh, it's a 2-1-1. He has a reactor on his barracks still, which is sign number 1. And then if you could get far enough back to see that there's a 2nd barracks already done, starting stim, at factory, then it is 100% a 2-1-1. If you just see the reactor barracks, there's a bit of a question mark, but it does generally mean that it's a 2-1-1 build. There are some other ones that exist, but yeah, as far as generalizing, that's what it is. Guaranteed you would see this too. But let's say that you're in Namshar's position, you don't see anything. You're waiting on the Hellions to show themselves. If they don't show themselves by minute 4 or something, I guess, might be a good indicator. It's a 2-1-1. Or they're literally hiding like 12, 16 Hellions and you're about to be screwed. Ideally, in the situation, Namshar sends the overlord and at least sees if there's a barracks. And then he also sees what's at the front of the base, where the Terrans generally stockpile their Marines. Because you don't see Hellions, you see Marines, that's a sign. The 2-1-1 also has later supply depots to the front of the base, but that's like a very, very, very subtle thing to notice, so I wouldn't worry about that. The overlord's gonna just go chill, I think, someplace where it can't be seen. We're gonna go back to Namshar's vision. So again, he doesn't 100% know, and he's just doing what you would normally do as a Zerg player. So that includes getting extra queens. Queens are very good units. Still waiting where, you know, wonder where those Hellions are. And around now, he's gonna be like, okay, hold on here. Like, no Hellions have even appeared. But you don't have to change your build, even if you realize the 2-1-1. So for instance, he just saw that there's 3 Marines. That's probably enough. So I'd say at this point, he knows 100%. But there's really nothing you really have to change yet. So as a Zerg player, you're still building your queens, you're still getting your drones. And this is really important for any of those, like, kind of middling Zerg leagues. If you're Masters, maybe you've got this down pretty well, but if you're anything below, your initial reaction is seeing that there's something you know. You see that there's Hellions, you overreact. You see that, oh, it's this 2-1-1 build that I saw, you overreact. The key to Zerg is balance, and a very delicate balance. If you start defending the 2-1-1 at 4 minutes by building nothing but Zerglings, okay, you'll defend it for sure, but you'll also be at a terrible drone count, and they'll just, well, ideally for them, they'll be doing a decent macro build, and they'll win because you over-defended. That is absolutely a thing. So Namshar goes up to, I think he goes up to a few more drones, if I'm not mistaken. He's spreading his creep. You do want to have 2 overlords at least scouting your main, because you want to see if the drops are going to come into the main, and that's a very common trick, I would say, below even just pro gaming level. If they're going to go to your main, they're kind of looking for like this surprise kill move. But in the pro level, it's not tried so often. But that's why you want the overlords over there. And maybe even a spore crawler if you're really feeling concerned. Now, your job right now is to get up, yeah, okay, for a little more drones, right? He adds on a gas, because you are still preparing for the future. But the thing in your mind right now, because you 100% know it's a 2-1-1, is that you want to see when they pick up, not always can you do that, but generally they do go after your first overlord. Where they're going to, again, not something you can really check. But then at 5 minutes, all right? Usually hits more around 5-10 because people mess up or do whatever. But at 5 minutes, you are supposed to see medevacs somewhere around your base. Either they drop to kill your creep, they drop to kill your main, or they drop your third to kill drones. Hey, what's up, guys? So that's all that Namshar is thinking about right now. He's waited till the very last second, really, to get lings. He still has queens because, again, queens are very good, and you want like a decent amount of extra queens in general as a Zerg player, but also against a 2-1-1 because they're what's going to be sending those medevacs flying back. So he goes up to 7. So this is your ideal pre-hit 2-1-1 situation, I believe. Where you have almost 50 drones. Maybe you could sneak in a couple more. You have 7 queens, let's say. He's got 1 on the way. And you start making lings. You also have larvae to make lings. That's also pretty important. Because they're going to take... Actually, how long did the lings take? I don't even know specifically. But you're going to want about 20 lings. Okay, he adds on 3 more drones. So 50 drones where you want to be. And then you want to add on lings. His overlord does die, so there you go. He knows it's incoming. He's trying to figure out where it's going to come from. And then he's going to build lings. And then here the medevac comes. You can see it kind of on the mini-map. He's going to prepare for the future because technically right now he is totally fine. He's got about 20 lings at 5 minutes with 5 extra queens on the front line. So he also has to think about the future. So you're going to slap down your baneling nest, your double evolution chamber, and maybe even your lair if you have the money for it, because the next 10 to 15 seconds is all about defending the drop that you know is coming from somewhere. So again, like, doesn't really usually hit at exactly 5 minutes. So there you go, 5-10. It reveals itself. Don't want to lose any drones in a stupid fashion. The ideal way to tackle this engagement, by the way, is you see him just, he knows he's dealt with it fine, is move forward with the queens. Like, the lings can save your drones, obviously. That's the better thing to do. But if the queens move forward, with the lings in sight, the Marines are never going to sim forward to kill them. They might try, but if you're doing things correctly, the queens are target firing the medevac anyways. Look, you can actually see it when I click on the queens. Actually, they're target firing a Marine right now, but they're supposed to be target firing. No, they are target firing the medevac. Yeah, see, they're target firing the medevac. That's what you got to do. Your lings are there not to actually engage. I mean, you could probably win an engagement if you're going to stick around, but they just should never do that. As soon as they get surrounded, they're going to pick up. So you're always going to target fire with the queens. You're going to send them packing. If they don't get sent packing, then you get free 16 Marines almost, because they're not supposed to lose them. And that's how you defend the 2-1-1 first portion. What you got to be careful of as the game goes on is, again, you don't want to over-defend, which I think Namshar does maybe a tad in this game. But you want to prepare for any second attack that might be on the way. They can easily scoop up like a Muna mine and 6 Marines or another 8 Marines or whatever and send a third medevac across the map, in which case it now gets really dangerous to hold on with just lings, especially because combat shields will be finishing soon too. It's not that slow of an upgrade. And that's when just lings doesn't cut it, especially because Namshar didn't get like super quick upgrades or anything like that, which is another response with 2-1-1 that maybe we'll see later. But anyways, so you want to have your Baneling Nest. That's something that you probably should have gotten right before the attack hit, just to make sure that you have it. And then I would not mind at all, especially if you're not a pro gamer, and if you are, then you haven't learned to deal with 2-1-1. What are you doing here? That you go for like just 6 Banelings right off the bat. After you've deflected this, go for drones, and then go for like 6 Banelings. It'll probably save you a lot of headache when they do that third medevac attack, or just when they catch you out of position. But from here on out, you're worried about that third medevac. You're also worried about any other type of push they could be doing. If we look at Kelazur's base, he's going for a third CC, yeah, but he added a third barracks prior to that, and he's actually pushing along the map. A simple ling at the front of the base would have helped you there, which I'm sure Namshar is regretting in this game, but you also just have to be wary that's going to occur. And on a map like this, you want to be very sure that you had creep spread around these ledges. That's kind of specific things to the map, though. But that's generally a deal with 2-1-1. There you go. And anything beyond that is questionable, because you need to get that scout. And you need to see when's their third TC timing. Do they have double engineering bays? Do they have a third barracks? Are they reactoring out medevac still? That type of stuff. But that's it. All right. This is kind of stuff everyone would already somewhat know. To anyone out there, I'm sure this was repetitive. It wasn't super, like, wow, I blew my mind. But to the people who are new, then it probably did.